Hello, I'm Larry Wilson, and welcome to this concluding study on the seventh prophecy in the book of Revelation, Revelation 14:6 through 15:6. It's a profound prophecy when put in its right context within the whole story that is described in the book of Revelation. Well, we've covered all of the essential points, and I hope that you will go back and review all three video seminars on this from time to time so that you keep it fresh in your mind. Now I'm going to do a quick review and add a few things that I hope you will find helpful as you think about and mull over the three angels' messages. So let's go to the computer screen and let's begin with the review. If you read my September 2006 wake-up report, you know that I anticipate the outbreak of a war that will escalate to the point of a nuclear exchange. I cannot say with certainty, but this war could begin in the Middle East, and it could easily involve Israel because hatred in the Middle East is about as strong as it can possibly be. I realize there's a lot of hatred in other parts of the world, and there are many wars going on even as we speak. But I'm talking about a hatred that is centuries old. In fact, millennia. It's been around for millennia. Because much of the world's oil comes from the Middle East, such a war could drastically affect many nations. And here's the problem. Many of the larger nations on earth have strategic alliances with the smaller nations in the Middle East. Therefore, a nuclear exchange involving Israel could pull the world into a World War III vortex within a matter of hours. You know, Israel has more nuclear bombs than any other nation in the Middle East, so it would be only a matter of hours until big nations of the world are involved with the little nations of the world in a World War III vortex that is spiraling out of control. If this scenario happened, World War III could only be stopped by divine intervention or the annihilation of millions and millions and hundreds of millions of people. At this very hour, hatred and tensions are building in the Middle East, and preparations for nuclear war are being made. Will Israel attack Iran? Will Iran attack Israel? I don't think it's a matter of if. I think it's a matter of when. But wait, there's more to this than man killing man. While nations on earth are preparing for atomic war, the Bible declares the devil is preparing to make war on the remnant, Revelation 12:17. And while the devil is preparing to make war on the remnant, Jesus is about to release the wrath of God and destroy 25% of humanity. Whoa! This planet is destined in the imminent future for a great deal of destruction, and all of the ingredients necessary for a perfect storm are now present. For those of you who aren't acquainted with the term, a perfect storm occurs in a meteorological sense when several elements in nature come together to produce a storm having the greatest destructive force possible. It's perfect disaster, I think would be another way to describe it. This planet is destined for a great deal of destruction. All of the ingredients necessary for a perfect storm are now present. Whether or not nuclear exchange will occur remains to be seen. However, the Bible clearly indicates the selection, the sealing, and the empowerment of the 144,000 will occur shortly before the Great Tribulation begins. I am guessing, but I think the selection and sealing of the 144,000 will occur a few days, maybe a couple of weeks before the censer is actually thrown down. Remember, it won't take very long. They're given the book. How long does it take to eat the little book in the angel's hand? Revelation 10. So, when all things on earth are in a great uproar, or in a great war, Jesus will shout above the din of war. And he will say in Revelation 10:6, there shall be no more delay. And the censer in Revelation 8:5 will be thrown down, and the first of 3 global earthquakes will occur. Peals of heavy thunder, brilliant flashes of lightning, and deep rumblings within the earth will be seen and heard all over the world. These awesome and magnificent manifestations will probably last for several hours. Then, as they cease, the whole world will begin to shake, and this earthquake will be so powerful that it will literally stop the world in its tracks. This earthquake will break up the world into 144,000 cells by collapsing bridges and overpasses, by cracking dams and pulling voltage lines apart, by felling tall buildings and buckling highways and runways. The first global earthquake will effectively put the whole world in a position of lockdown. And one prophet, that is one of the 144,000, will be located in each cell. This prophet will be empowered by the Holy Spirit to speak the words that Jesus will put in his or her mouth. The testimony of Jesus will be clearly heard. Jesus will speak through the 144,000 to the whole world through the mouths of 144,000 people in a context of divine wrath. Then the 4 angels who have been patiently waiting to sound their trumpets since 1994 will be released to hurt the earth, and within 60 days of the global earthquake, 1.75 billion people will be dead. Not from the nuclear exchange, but from the wrath of Jesus. Suddenly the whole world will awaken and discover that our greatest threat isn't atomic bombs. No, man's greatest threat is an angry God. Unfortunately, this awakening and the first angel's message is only meaningful within a context of overwhelming death and destruction. Once the survivors have been traumatized to the point that religious paradigms are somewhat dysfunctional, many honest-hearted people will give consideration to a gospel that is unlike anything they've ever heard. And the first message will come as an outright demand. Fear God, for the hour of his judgment has come. Worship Jesus Christ, the Creator, as his law, the 4th commandment, demands. This message will suddenly and abruptly thrust the sovereignty of Jesus Christ to the forefront of human thinking all over the world. Muslims, Jews, Hindus, pagans, and atheists, 75% of the world's population, will either be confused or highly irritated by the first angel's message, because at the present time Jesus Christ is either unknown or he is the last person in heaven they would ever consider worshiping. Catholics and Protestants will not fare much better. As you know, Catholics and Protestants claim to honor and worship Jesus Christ, but the fact is most Catholics and Protestants know very little about Jesus Christ and his teachings. I hate to say this, but the Bible backs it up. Most Christians are actually idol worshipers. They have made idols out of their religion and Jesus Christ as well. How does one make an idol out of his religion, or Jesus Christ for that matter? Simple. You end up worshiping the form and ignore the substance. In other words, when a Christian's religion is more about ritual and form, when it's more about what the church teaches than what truth contains, when it's more about embracing church doctrine than the teachings of Jesus and carrying his cross, then religion has become an idol, and Jesus Christ has become an icon. Paul told Timothy in 2 Timothy 3:1, "But mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, and in verse 5, having a form of godliness, but denying its power. Have nothing to do with them, Paul told Timothy. So the global crisis created by the first four trumpets and the bunker-busting words. How do you like that? I made that up all by myself. Bunker-busting words. You know what bunker busters are? There's those special bombs that can be fired deep into the ground and blow up a bunker down deep in the heart of the earth. Well, the 144,000 are going to deliver bunker-busting words. And they're going to tell the world, worship Jesus Christ on Saturday, His holy day. And this will irritate just about everybody. Muslims, Jews, Hindus, pagans, atheists will hate it because they don't know or they don't like Jesus Christ. And these words will irritate most Christians as well because, for the most part, Christians don't know that Jesus Christ is the Creator. They don't know about His coming wrath. And they don't believe that His fourth commandment is obligatory. The point here is that the global earthquake and the first four trumpets will catch the whole world off guard, and the first angel's message will irritate most everybody. Even the few Christian denominations that presently observe the seventh day of the week, they don't understand these things. They too will be caught off guard and highly irritated because their prophetic authorities and schematics will prove to be worthless. Most Christians don't expect to experience the wrath of Jesus, the global earthquake, nor the first four trumpets. Therefore, Catholics and Protestants will be overwhelmed, just like Muslims, Jews, Hindus, pagans, and atheists. The playing field will be level, won't it? Keep this thought in mind. The first angel's message doesn't stop irritating people for 1,260 days. For this reason, the first angel's message will eventually make many people very angry. I'll say more about this in just a minute. But as you can see, the first angel's message will not only be a shocking introduction to the sovereignty of Jesus Christ, for many people it will become a very serious irritant. The world needs a strong dose of reality. The world needs to know that Jesus Christ overrules everything. And the 144,000 will be asking the world, will you let Him rule over you? You have heard me say in earlier segments of this seminar that I believe persecution for the saints starts about 60 days after the global earthquake. The timing is determined by two things. First, the 42 months can't be moved around very much within the 1,335 days. And second, enough destruction and time has to occur so that Babylon can form and begin to make laws. And that's when I took you to the chart book, page 19, so that you could see that. Okay, so Protestants, Catholics, Muslims, Hindu, Jews, pagans, and atheists will be offended when they hear the demand to worship Jesus Christ on a day they do not honor, because the hour of His judgment has come. This confrontation is exactly what Jesus wants. Jesus said in Matthew 10:34, "Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to turn a man against his father, a daughter against her mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies will be the members of his own household." Why? Because that's what truth does. Truth is no respecter of persons. Truth takes no prisoners. Truth will not, in a setting of persecution, does not permit a bandwagon to form. So that people who step on the side of truth will have to do so without family support. Jesus said in verse 37, 10:37, "Anyone who loves his mother or father more than me is not worthy of me. And anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And anyone who does not take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me." It's either Jesus only and His cross, or you're not worthy of His salvation. John 8:31, To the Jews who had believed in him, Jesus said, "If you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples." Then, verse 32, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." That's right. The truth will set you free of your friends, your family, your job, and your church. Billions of people will say to the 144,000 prophets, "But this isn't what my church teaches." The 144,000 will reply, "Is that your final answer?" I borrowed that from a television show, so I hope you understand. A host of sinless laws will be implemented and enforced by Babylon, and everyone who violates these laws will be punished. Respect for God and His will be a punishable offense because the leaders of Babylon will fear that God's wrath will break out once again and more people will die if sinful behavior continues. So as Babylon exerts its mandate to appease God, a second message from Jesus will be heard around the world. The second message will be very simple. The 144,000 will utter three provocative, irritating words. Babylon is fallen. Babylon is false. Babylon is blasphemous. Babylon is arrogant and in opposition to the will of God. Once you understand the context of the second message and the test of faith that it represents, you can see that it will take a lot of courage and faith to receive the first two angels' messages and act on them accordingly. Everyone who accepts the second angel's message will find himself in a difficult situation, and this is called persecution. Rebellion against the laws of Babylon will produce punishment. Listen carefully. Here's something I want you to carefully consider. At first, the laws mandated by Babylon will have moral objectives that conservative people in all religions can accept. For example, homosexuality will be soundly condemned, and those participating in homosexual behaviors will be harshly punished. Sexual promiscuity, prostitution, and the use and production of pornography will be condemned, and those participating in sexual immorality will be harshly punished. Gambling, stealing, dishonesty, the use of illegal drugs, and violent behavior will be harshly punished. All of this is to ensure that God's wrath is appeased. So the religious leaders of all nations will require their respective legislators to set aside a day of rest each week for the worship of God. Businesses will be closed on a day set aside for God. Sporting events will be canceled. Cathedrals, churches, mosques, temples, synagogues, and kingdom halls will be filled with worshipers. As you can see, the laws of Babylon will not dramatically impact people already living godly lives at first. However, there will be a fly in the ointment, an irritant that won't go away. The 144,000 will be proclaiming the first angel's message with great power and authority, and their presence and sharp condemnation of Babylon will create an enormous problem for them and everyone who joins with them. The 144,000 will be nagging, irritating everyone to receive the gospel of Jesus Christ and worship our Creator on His holy day, Saturday, the seventh day of the week. Were it not for 144,000 pests, the issue of worship would not become so controverted during the Great Tribulation. But the constant preaching, the constant nagging of the 144,000 will rise to the attention of Babylon's leaders, and this will arouse their wrath. As the number of people resting on God's seventh-day Sabbath begins to grow, a controversy over God's day of worship will erupt. This controversy will grow in intensity and animosity because the testimony of the 144,000 will undermine Babylon's authority and its blasphemous claims. Eventually, the 144,000 will be targets marked for death. And you remember the words of Caiaphas concerning Jesus when he had resurrected Lazarus from the dead. Caiaphas said to the Sanhedrin, "You do not realize that it is better for you that one man die for the people than that the whole nation perish." So after a year or so, laws will be made mandating that all other days of the week will be designated as work days. Ironically, support for this law is found in the fourth commandment, Exodus 20, verse 9. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. So in Muslim countries, Friday will be the holy day. All other days will be designated as work days. In Catholic and Protestant countries, Sunday will be designated as as the day for worship, and all other days will be designated as work days. In Israel, if there is an Israel after the nuclear exchange, Saturday will be designated as the day for worship, and all other days will be designated as work days. Why is it important that 6 days be declared work days? The devil will work through religious leaders to eliminate as much religious diversity as possible. This move will bring much confusion. People will ask, how can one angry God, whoever he is, have 3 different days for worship and 6 different days for work? Well, when the 5th trumpet sounds, we know the devil himself will appear, and he will do 4 things. 1, he will torment the non-religious wicked for 5 months. Number 2, he will travel the world with a razzle-dazzle show of miracle-working power, even calling fire to come down from heaven to convince the world that he's Almighty God. And then 3, he will order the leaders of Babylon to dissolve all religions and set up a one-world church state. Then he will kill 1/3 of mankind and impose his mark on the remaining 2/3. That's why the number 666 will be worn on the right hand. Revelation 13:2 says, the dragon gave the composite beast his power, his throne, and great authority. So the devil is the authority behind the composite beast, the crisis government, which mankind will form in an effort to appease God. The composite beast was given a mouth to utter proud words and blasphemies. During the Great Tribulation, Babylon will respond to the 3 angels' messages with boasting and lies. Babylon will declare the 3 angels' messages to be heresy. And the composite beast will exercise his authority for 42 long, miserable months. Revelation 13:6. He, the composite beast, opened his mouth to blaspheme God. Specifically, Babylon will denounce the demands of Jesus Christ. And Babylon's leaders will slander, that is, misrepresent and speak evil of his name. The sovereignty of Jesus Christ will be, as proclaimed by the 144,000, will be ridiculed by the leaders of Babylon. And the composite beast will slander his dwelling place. This means Babylon's leaders will scoff at the idea that Jesus is sitting in judgment on the earth. And ultimately, Babylon is going to scoff at and slander those who live in heaven. You might say, well, what does that mean? Well, after the 5th trumpet occurs, the composite beast will slander the angels in heaven, because the leaders of Babylon will think that heaven is empty. They say God himself has come to earth with his angels. So Revelation 13:7, he, the composite beast, was given power to make war against the saints and to conquer them. And he was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation, and all inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, that is, all whose names have not been written in the book of life belonging to the Lamb that was slain from the creation of the world. Look at these 2 verses. He who has an ear, let him hear what Jesus has to say to the saints. 13:10. Don't worry about saving your life, for you can't, Jesus says. If anyone is to go into captivity because of his faith in me, into captivity he will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword because of his faith in me, with the sword he will be killed. This submission to my will calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of the saints. Jesus said in Matthew 5:11, blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, and falsely say all kinds of evil things against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Matthew 16:25, for whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me will find it. Verse 26, what good will it be for a man if he gains the whole world and yet forfeits his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? Verse 27, for the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, And then He will reward each person according to what he has done. During the Great Tribulation, we will be tested to see if we love Jesus and His truth more than we love life itself. For Christ's sake, are you willing to forsake your family? For Christ's sake, are you willing to forsake your church? For Christ's sake, are you willing to go to prison? For Christ's sake, are you willing to die? Jesus said in chapter 10, verse 37, Matthew 10:37, anyone who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And anyone who does not take his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. The cross may come suddenly. It may come unexpectedly, but it will come. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. May God give each of us the faith to surrender our will into His hands and leave the consequences to Him. Well, you say, what does that have to do with reviewing the three angels' messages? Well, it has everything to do, because the three angels' messages is going to put every human being in a situation where he has to stand alone. You won't be able to make your decision as a family. You won't be able to make your decision as a church body. You won't be able to make your decision to follow Christ because there's a bandwagon and everybody's, going there and really singing praises and having a wonderful time, and it's just great day, including, picnic on the grounds. Not at all. I'm trying to help you understand that if you're enjoying the good life too much right now, the deceitfulness of riches will grab you and surprise you, because leaving it behind and giving it up can be very difficult. Learning to live by faith, learning to walk the sober life, live the sober life, and walk with the Lord day by day. Learning to stay in prayer and learning to stay close to God. That's where we will find the strength. John the Baptist could stand tall before Herod and condemn that king for committing adultery, for taking the wife of his brother. But John the Baptist had the strength and the fortitude and the wherewithal to stand before Herod, because he had knelt before the King of Kings. He had received strength to do that from the King of Kings. May God help us in these final closing days of Earth's history to grow in strength, to grow in faith, to grow so that we can be prepared for the hour that is about to take place. May God bless you, is my prayer.